Hi everyone, it's Smitha. I am glamsmitty on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and today I have a fun video where I'm going to go through and talk about some of the kind of most fun eyeshadow palettes that I've tried in 2024. I think it's no surprise that a lot of the eyeshadow palettes that I'm going to show, I think almost all of them, are considered indie makeup brands, brands that are not sold at major retailers. I just feel that indie makeup kind of kills the game over and over again when it comes to exciting eyeshadows, innovative formulas, all of that. And I'm gonna do this in no particular order because ranking videos can stress me out a little bit. I do enjoy watching them from time to time, but I myself have a hard time putting everything into kind of a cohesive ranking because, you know, also the way that I decide my favorites can sort of change on a day-to-day basis, kind of by season, by what colors I'm into at the time. So for me, it just didn't really make sense. But anyway, the first palette that I'm going to talk about is from Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Dreamer palette. And here's what it looks like inside. I definitely feel that the color stories from Unearthly continue to kind of get more intriguing. The formulas of the shimmers just keeps getting better and better, and I know I've heard other people say this as well. I've tried a few of their recent palettes, this and Sorceress Smoke and Devour. All of those I purchased, and I just find that the formulas, like I said, just keep getting better. This color story is super dreamy. I love the purple tones. You get some blue tones, and in general, this is a very cool tone leading palette. When I got it, it was winter time, which I thought was absolutely perfect. I am also going to share in this video in one of the corners the swatches that I did, as well as a look that I did, and I'll try to do that for each of these palettes. The shimmers, I would say, are pretty smooth in texture, so if you like your shimmers to be smoother, you would get on with these pretty well, and they are very sparkly. They may not be the shiftiest of shimmers that I own, but they have the sparkle factor. So yeah, I've really been enjoying that, and that's why this is one of the most kind of interesting palettes that I've tried in 2024. Next palette I'm going to talk about is from Fantasy Cosmetica. This is their most recent launch. This is the Wizard palette. I think a lot of people may know this. I love blue eyeshadow. This is almost a monochromatic blue palette. You get some really light tones and some really deep tones, and you have a holochrome in here. I find that the tone of the yellow that is included is a lot of fun, and it's really fun to incorporate it into the looks along with these blues. So yeah, and I loved the look that I did when I made it. I just felt so kind of pretty, and the formula was so easy to work with. I really love the 9 pans from Fantasy Cosmetica, and I just find that the color stories in general are so fun. And also these pans are magnetic, so you can actually mix and match, which is a lot of fun if you have a little kind of magnetic tool that you can get on Amazon called telescoping magnet. So yeah, I absolutely love this palette. I love blue eyeshadow. You have to like blue eyeshadow, obviously, to be into this palette, but yeah, it's great, and the formula is really nice. Maybe a couple things that I might change about it are that these blues are kind of similar, and these blues are kind of similar. I don't mind mattes being similar in color, but I do think they're quite similar, so might have changed it up by kind of changing the tone of those to just add a little bit more variety. But even with that being said, I still love it. And so yes, this is the Wizard palette, and I did receive that in PR. The next palette that I'm going to talk about is from a new brand, and I know I've heard a lot of people talk about this being one of their favorite palettes of the year, and for good reason. This is from the brand Crype Cosmetics. This is, like I said, the Burnt Forest palette. First release from this brand, and the formula of the mattes and the shimmers is out of this world. These are magnetic pans. This is a color story that is unique and can really be worn all year long. You have neutral tones, you have some really unique green tones. The mattes in general, I think, are very useful mattes and ones that you can coordinate in a lot of looks. The multi-chromes in here are very special. And so I just don't have enough good things to say about this palette from Crype Cosmetics. I will, just for fun, show you a couple of swatches on my finger. I did looks with these two, and I made a really smoky look with this one, so unique. It is called Starry Sky, which is very appropriate. And then this one is called Moss. It's one of those really kind of electric greens with a reddish shift. And I'm just in normal, sunlight right now, but you can already see, and I'm just on my phone, you can see how special that one is. And that is the shade Moss. So yes, that is the palette from Crype Cosmetics. Not to mention that the packaging on this is just so fun, sleek, elegant, all of the adjectives. So that is Burnt Forest from Crype Cosmetics. That was also PR. Next palette I'm going to talk about is another one that I've seen a lot of people talk very positively about. I purchased it. It's from a brand that I'm new to called Titanium Foxes, and this is the Poppy Quiet palette. I have so many positive things to say about this. I can't believe that, some of these brands that are just brand new are coming out with just such incredible palettes. I mean, I believe it, but it's just really impressive. It's actually what I have on my eyes today. So let me tell you what I like about this palette. First of all, beautiful spring color story. It did come out in the spring. I think that the formula of these mattes is so lovely. They blend so well. They're pigmented but buildable. And my favorite part about the palette is that how often do you get 3 iridescent shades in a palette? These allow you to make such kind of transformative looks because you can layer them on top of the other shimmers, you can layer them on top of the mattes. They're so shifty, they're smooth, so they're easy to work with. And I actually have all 3 iridescents layered over these 2 mattes. Really simple look, but just so pretty. I did a more complex look for Instagram. Again, I'll share things as I go along in the corners here, just so that you can have a little bit more reference, and then I'll show you what those look like swatched on the finger. How insane are these? So yeah, Poppy Quiet. I have no regrets about purchasing it, and I'm always excited to use it. Of note, it's a pricey palette. I think by the time I paid for, it ships from France, by the time I paid for the palette and for shipping, which I want to say that shipping cost me over $20, it was close to $100, but I still have no regrets about getting this palette. So I think that says a lot. Yeah, so they have this palette and Poppy Storm, and I really wanted to get Poppy Storm as well, but I think it'll have to wait for another time because that one is also really pretty and unique. So next palette is from Cosmic Brushes. This is their most recent release. They actually haven't had a release in 2024 as of yet. I really hope we see one soon. This is the Winter Wonderland palette. I mean, you already know I like blue eyeshadow, love blue eyeshadow, but so beautiful. You get pretty much every blue that you want to use from light to dark. All of the shades in here feel unique enough and like they belong, and the shimmers are beautiful. You have kind of some black base multi-chromes in here. You have some light and ethereal shimmers in here that work as topper shades, and the formula of Cosmic Brushes is so nice. I do want to say I have no idea how they keep the prices what they are. Even with international shipping, I feel that the prices are quite fair. So I think that's another really positive about Cosmic Brushes, is that you get a lot of shades, good formula, and good price. I think if you are doing the international shipping and you have some reservations about that you might consider getting more than one palette at a time to kind of cut down on the cost. But yeah, I absolutely love this, and I love the looks that I came out with this, and it's definitely a palette that I'm going to come back to time and time again. So yeah, that is the Winter Wonderland palette. And let's see if I should show you a couple of swatches. So this is the shade Wonderland, and then the shade Frost. Those are kind of two of the lighter ethereal shimmers. So pretty, very smooth in texture, and very versatile. So that is, again, the Winter Wonderland palette. Next is, this is the only brand that you can get at a mainstream retailer. This is from Danessa Myricks. This is the Lightworks 5 palette. I have all of the Lightworks palette from 3 onward. I love that, you know, this is a mainstream brand that you can get chromes, really shifty duochromes and multi-chromes. And I love the kind of message behind this palette. This was designed as a kind of feel good, feel confident. You have your energy levels by row: soft energy, bold energy, and grounding energy, which I think is so fun. A lot of the words are affirmations. Again, just so much fun. And yeah, it's just, if you only wanted to shop at Sephora or mainstream brands, or sorry, from mainstream retailers, and you are into those kinds of shadows, I think that this is a must. I even think that if you're somebody who has indie shadows, this palette has so much in it and will continue to inspire you. Not to mention the formulas are really nice. I do think that some of the shades are a bit emollient, so if that is something that you have to avoid, that is just something to keep in mind. There's a couple of really kind of fun shades. This is Brave and Fearless. Those in this kind of middle row here. Those have those are iridescence, I believe, and again, like, would be super transformative and allow you to do such a variety of looks. This is a palette that if you like to use mattes with your palette, you'd have to bring in another one, and it is pricey, but she runs really good sales, you know, around the holidays or randomly throughout the year, so you can get this on 30% off. I think I've even seen it 40% off, which is such a steal. So this is the Lightworks 5 palette. And I did happen to be gifted this palette as well as the Winter Wonderland palette. So next palette is from Enle Rain, and this is the Cold Moon palette. This continues to be my favorite palette from Enle Rain. I love the palettes that they come out with in this format, where you have 21 shades and you get an even split of mattes and shimmers. You do get a variety of textures in here. So I think, you know, it would work for a good variety of people. You do have some of the emollient textures. If you try to avoid those, that's something to keep in mind. But you get such kind of special shimmers in here and a good variety of mattes, which I really love. Those are the first two, Snowdrop and Aurora. Those are both somewhat emollient. That's what they look like on my fingertips. And I think the main thing that I would change about this palette is having some of the mattes are a little bit similar. So I would probably have maybe a little bit more depth and variety in kind of the deeper mattes as opposed to just kind of these two here. I might have some more in there, maybe a black, maybe a navy. That's just off the top of my head. I'm sure, you know, there's some other options as well, maybe a really kind of deep mauve, but overall I feel like, you know, you're getting a good variety of shadows and special shades with this one. So the Enle Rain palettes can be a little pricey. You can use codes on them and save 10%, so just something to keep in mind. The next palette is from Nomad Cosmetics. This is the New Zealand Stargazing palette, and definitely one of my favorite palettes from Nomad. And no surprise that it does have multi-chromes in it. As many of you know, I am a multi-chrome lover, so I like that, you know, Nomad was playing around with multi-chromes in this palette. And the color story I think is really cute as well. You get a good variety of tones in your mattes from light to deep, and also some really just special shimmer shadows. So these ones are a little bit on the kind of slick side. I don't know if I want to say like oily, but a little bit wet feeling. So that's just something to keep in mind. They are very smooth though. So I think, you know, they would maybe work on a good variety of people, but just something to keep in mind is that the shimmers don't feel dry if you exclusively like dry shimmers. But that's two of the multi-chromes, really kind of special shades. And yeah, I really enjoy this palette. I don't know if I created a look for Instagram with it, but I have used it offline and really enjoyed it. But I'll share my swatches in here, or if I did a video of my swatches, I'll share a little screenshot. So this is the New Zealand Stargazing palette from Nomad. It's also PR. Next palette is from Enle Cosmetics. I do want to mention I am friends with the owner, and I did receive this in PR. So this is the Gloomy Gardens palette. In addition, I believe that Millie or Bed to the Brow helped with some of the design of the cover, which is beautiful. And the color story is so unique. I've never seen a color story kind of like this. It's not one that I would have been able to come up with. I really like the pops of peach in here. I like that you have, you know, a corresponding lighter matte and deeper matte. And again, the shimmers in here are really special. These pans are magnetic, and I know that going forward, I think they also want to do all of their pans so that they are magnetic. This was the first palette they had with magnetic pans, but I'll go ahead and swatch a couple of the shimmer shades. I'll do the iridescent and the green. So look at those. And the matte formula, I would say, is even better than the matte formula in the first palette, which was their Halloween palette. But yes, this is the Gloomy Gardens. This is another one that I've heard a lot of people that have tried it really enjoy it, and for good reason. It's sold out at least one time, and yeah, I'm excited to see what else the brand does. So this is Gloomy Gardens. Next palette is from Bella Beauty Bar. This is the Dead Roses palette. And this is what the inside looks like. This, I have to say a couple things. One is, I am not sure I was expecting the palette to look like this. I feel it's, and I've heard other people say this as well, that it's a little bit more of a typical Valentine's Day color story than I was kind of expecting when I heard the name Dead Roses. But it's the most beautiful Valentine's palette that I've seen come out this year. There's been a lot of really beautiful palettes come out this year, but this palette is just, I want to say this is my favorite palette, or one of my favorite palettes that Bella Beauty Bar has ever come out with. You get, again, really, really special shimmer shades in here. I love the bright, kind of the bright mattes that we have here, the purple tones, just such a sultry color story. And I have definitely come back to it, and it's one that I always look forward to using when I have the chance to. So again, I'll swatch a couple of the shimmers. I'm going to swatch that really kind of unique dark matte, and then the shade Drop Dead, and then also the shade Friend Zone. And Friend Zone is kind of that emollient texture, which is on this finger there, but such unique kind of tones and shades and, you know, textures. But absolutely love this, and this was a pricier price point, but I felt that it was justified for what you get. Again, they're doing magnetic pans moving forward with all of their releases, which I really enjoy, and is another one that I've heard that people have also really enjoyed. So this is the Dead Roses palette. And then I just have two more to talk about. This one is from Blend Bunny, and this is their most recent palette in collaboration with Ellis Atlantis. And here's what we're looking like. It's an absolutely beautiful rainbow palette. I love it, and it's one that I'm going to be using a lot. I will say, if you're not familiar with the collaborator, I would highly recommend checking out Glow Up, because Ellis is actually featured in the Glow Up series, which is on Netflix. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's a competition involving makeup artists in the UK. So definitely check it out. So talented. Really made me appreciate having this palette even more. And here's something that I think is really kind of cool and fun about it. This row of iridescence. I mean, first of all, the shades, the tones. I don't have any palettes that I have this much. I want to say, I mean, I might, but the tones that you get of each shade is so thoughtful. And I especially loved all of these kind of red and orangey tones, which I don't feel like are ones that we get a lot of in palettes, and they're hard to formulate and to do well. Love that. And the fact that we have these iridescence, or mostly iridescence, this one here is a silver, so it's not an iridescent, but these, again, when you have iridescence, they allow you to really transform your look. So you can layer them over the matte shades to get all types of different looks with your shimmers. And then also they make beautiful highlights. So you can use them as a really blinding highlight on the face. Again, I'll just swatch a couple of them for you. This is Supernova, Deity, and Transcend. And that's what they look like swatched on the fingertip. I will also, again, share looks that I created and swatches so that you can have that as a reference. And I also have them on my Instagram page as well. So that is the Ellis Atlantis times Blend Bunny palette. So I was gifted that in PR as well. And then the last palette that I'm going to talk about is from Dandelions. And if you've been following me for a decent amount of time, or any time on Instagram, you may know that I'm a huge lover of dandelions, especially the mattes. So they came out with this palette, Feeding Frenzy, within the last couple months. And what I love about this is how nuanced. It's a green monochromatic palette, but you get such interesting matte tones with dandelion, and the formulas are just so good. I've used this already in a couple of looks, so I know that it's consistent with the Dandelion's matte formula that I really love. I will confess I have not used the shimmers yet, but I have used their shimmers and the formula keeps on getting better. I again will do a few swatches, and I've seen that the owner Daniel has used these shimmers in looks and that they're really beautiful. I would have bought this palette for the mattes alone, but I just feel that especially if you like green eyeshadow, this is maybe a staple for you like it is for me. So this is the Feeding Frenzy palette. And again, the pans are magnetic. You can buy it either as single shadows, as a bundle of single shadows, or in the palette like I did. And if you get it in the palette, you can use a magnet to remove them. All right, thanks for joining me for this video where I talk about some of the most unique palettes that I've tried in 2024, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.